So we'll now begin the final part on the LCB's business strategy. The first presentation will be Global Out Licensing Strategy by Executive Vice President Jae Choi. As Head of Global Business Development, EVP Mr. Che is responsible for external partnerships, including the global out-licensing of LCB's pipeline assets. He has successfully led licensing deals with major global companies such as J&J and Ono. Hello everyone, my name is Jae Che for Business Development. So it's been a long day today, and the content would be very challenging to understand. So I'd like to thank your effort and commitment. And you must be very tired after the lunch break, so you can stretch yourself prior to this presentation. It's been a year since I joined the last presentation, and this would be an extended version of last year's presentation. So there are several components I'd like to add more on top of last year's. The topic of my presentation today would be very long or short. Depending on the situation, I'd like to talk about business strategies over the past 1 year and what would be the future landscape or strategies or the goals in terms of global licensing. This morning and this afternoon as well, you have heard of LigaChem's research and development, current trends, and the future plans. And the final outcome of all of these activities include licensing and the business strategies. So the theme of this presentation relates to global out-licensing. What do you think would be the most foundation for licensing? Because we are a technology provider, so that what is most important is technological foundation as a provider. I think most of you agree with what I'm saying. So you guys are the experts in the biopharmaceuticals field. So I'd like to ask you this question. Let's say there is a company saying that they have great technologies. What would be your criteria? Let's say there are companies like A, B, C, and they say their technologies are great, outstanding on the global stage. Every one of them is boasting of their outstanding features like a second generation, and they are leading technologies in certain fields. What should be the objective evaluation criteria or method? What would be fair evaluation? Have you ever thought about that in terms of evaluation? That might be a difficult question, but there is an easy answer in 3 ways. One, so we will see whether that is recognized by the one of the most credible societies in that field. I think battery is running out. The pointer is not working. Now it is working. Fortunately, ADC Society, World ADC Summit has been held from 2010 every year. That is the most recognized society. And then they are recognizing the best their ADC platform, and the LigaChem has been receiving best ADC platform technology award for 6 years consecutively. And what is the criteria for selection criteria for this award? About 20 to 30 companies are being designated as the candidates, and then there will be first line voting to decide top 5 companies. And then through this society, top 5 companies are being notified of their selection as the finalists. And then there will be expert review committee to go through the voting process. Then there are the scholars from the academia. But the committee is composed of the real experts like a CEO, CSO of global biopharmaceuticals, or the doctors who are really actively engaged with the clinical trials. So the first place is winner, and second place is runner-up, and we have been the winners for 3 consecutive years these days. So not just in ADC. Let's say there are certain awards, then think about how many Korean companies we are having as top tier in this kind of world-recognized society. We have other ADC companies, and what we want as a LigaChemBio is that we'd like to see more the ADC companies so that we can have a fair competition so that we can contribute to the ADC. But in order to be really recognized as ADC objectively, they need to be ranked as top 5. Number 2 is that clinical results matter. New emerging technologies. Let's say they would have great results in animal testing. However, that may be different in the clinical trials. So, having proven results from the clinical trials are very important. For example, relative to NR2, like a smaller administration and comparable efficacy. And the neutropenia is about 67%, but ours is less than 10%, which is showing the real differentiation, and that is proven by the clinical trials. So that is the evidence of outstanding technological power. Let us go back to the technology transfer. Have they ever done technology transfer or out licensing? So we did it with Ono last year, and the total value exceed 20 billion right now. So that purchasers are strict evaluators, I like to say. Let's say if you like to buy the one item which is worth only 100 million won, you are reviewing very strictly, but this is worth about trillion won. So that purchasers matter. They are evaluating very strictly technological advancement and clinical possibility and commercialization. We've gone through various due diligence relating to technology transfer. So when we receive about 40 to 50 questions, we are preparing for the answers very thoroughly. But actually, it's 350 or 400 questions we get for the due diligence, and for every question, we answer with about the scores of presentation slides, and that need to be passed before reaching an agreement. The reason why I'm talking about this process is that through technology transfer, due diligence experience really matters. And through that, a company can advance more. So recognition from the society, and then validation through clinical trials, and also technology transfer or the out licensing are the 3 most important criteria, I think, and we have gone through all of these criteria. And I mentioned this last year, market trend cannot be ignored at all. Depending on the market situations and technology transfer, things might differ. And one thing peculiar about last year's market, so if you take a look at the MMA prior to 2022, the total value was about 20 trillion a year, combination of like MMA, and then it went explosive from 2023, exceeding 150 trillion won. That was because of the success of NR2 and also as presented by Bob Ross. Then we were seeing growing number of clinical trials and high interest among global pharmaceuticals companies. And with the release of ADC materials, the market revenue was generated significantly. It's been only 1 year since the last year's presentation, and about whether this hot market is being maintained or not would be another question. In 2024 alone, we got more than 10,000 deals, and that trend is continued into 2025. Even considering FX, it's about worth 99 trillion. But the value looks less relative to 2023. However, 2023 was a year of M&A. So money value was about 40 to 60 trillion won. So excluding that, in 2024, I think the value is comparable to 2023. And after the last year's presentation, including Ono deal, so we are continuing to have a trillion won worth of deals. So again, that we are having years of the M&A, and not just clinical deals, but also preclinical stage deals are also being signed, meaning that the big pharmaceuticals would like to be engaged as early as possible, being engaged with preclinical stages. So in 2025, there were the early stage deals. Known targets and first-in-class targets were having active transfers of technologies. A new trend is growing demand for bispecific ADCs. So there are the early-stage deals for bispecifics. So all of these prove that our direction is right. Now I'd like to switch my gear to talk about our models. There are two different types of technology transfers. One is like complete product, including antibody, a linker, and payload. So we do the development or the IND or to some certain state. Or we provide only platforms and all the rights would belong to the buyer, as long as they have antibodies, and then they work on the development for this ADC. For the big farmers like MZL, they like to get the approval, so they are willing to give the royalties, so there is no possibility of third-party technology transfer. But if royalties are given to big pharma technology providers, and then there can be like a milestone-based revenue again. So as by HO2 and the system, there is a big possibility of big pharma technology transfer that would be another source of revenue and cash flow. So you may have heard of that today. So it was expressed represented as ADC, but we are talking about AIC, ADIC, and ADC today. So regardless of product or a platform, new innovation, new payload, IO compound, AIC. New innovation is already on the way so that our licensing value would have significant growth once again. That is because there is existing demand on the global stage. So, in terms of a product, that picture is pretty clear, especially recently. And technology transfer with Ono, you might think that the value would be lower than Johnson & Johnson. We signed confidentiality agreement, of course, but Johnson & Johnson got the technologically valid one, but for Ono got the non-clinical staged one, so that the value is pretty high. And platform prices are also rising continuously. And our CEO briefly mentioned about Vision 2030. Speaking of which, by 2030, here is our direction of development. The summary is represented by Vision 2030. Before last year, we wanted to have about 2 to 3 candidate materials per year. So given biotechs in Korea or the US having only one candidate material is already good enough. But our aim is to have about 4 to 5 candidate materials per year. That's already been declared. So within 5 years, last year we announced that would be 10 to 15. But our CEO mentioned 20 candidates within the next 3 years. So I'm not really sure whether you took notice of it or not. Because of delay, companies usually trying to reduce the number. They are extending the period while reducing the number of candidates. So this is new, the disclosure according to our speed. So we are pretty much on track, and we are accelerating. And in terms of BD, through new innovation, our technology are having more added values. And another implication from this, like in 3 to 4 years, we are going to have 20 pipelines. We do not need to develop all of this on our own. So as for the global clinical trials, 5 to 6 will be ongoing, and for the remainder, we can have technology transfer. And we often get questions whether we will continue to transfer our technologies. The answer is yes, we will continue to transfer technologies for the single assets and platforms. Last year, I also mentioned that we were going to do package deal platform combined with pipelines, and we lived up to that promise. When you take a look at the owner deal, so non-clinical, the materials were transferred worth about 700 trillion won. But platform deal is totally separate deal. We didn't want to disclose the value of the deal, but again, the deal size is growing more and more. And then it was extra technology transfer. So 2 technology transfers with Ono. So as for the meaning of this, apart from the revenue, there are reasons behind this kind of deals. Speaking about Ono, because of Pembro, Opdiva is hidden, which is competing product. And then this is the original developer, and BES got the technology transfer. And then they sold more than 10 trillion last year alone, meaning that the Ono is receiving royalties from that. And also It has great experience and know-how in terms of clinical development and commercialization. That's why it can it has capability of developing 9 SCB-987 in an expedited way, and also we are selling non-clinical trials at a very good price that is also subject to technology transfer going forward. And when it comes to platform, it has differentiated antibody platform. It can encounter our ADC to produce really competitive ADC programs, and then like milestones and later stage payment would have another possibility. Commercialization strategy and global licensing strategies. It was mentioned partly, and I'd like to talk about two new aspects before I conclude my presentation. These are new terminologies. One is BioBest. Second one is Big Alliance Package. Let me talk about them. Let's say there are already proven ADCs. There are more than 20 ADCs which are already approved. But there are limitations even though they have been approved by the authorities. So they are approved, but they are not satisfactory. There might be toxicities, for example, optical toxicities, as mentioned by Dr. Zhou, or hematological toxicities, or different efficacy. So 20% would be good enough, not necessarily 40 to 50%. So increasing efficacy and reducing toxicity is the needs we need to address, and this was mentioned a lot in the morning session. Like continuing to use the one payload may have resistance, so that we need to consider refractory patients. So how to address refraction issue? So when it comes to bio-based strategy, I like to rephrase it another way. Oh, so the antibody should be the okay. There is no nothing wrong with antibody. Things are determined by platform and payload. So already the released ADC in the market, usually they have no problem with antibody, and those antibodies have already been administered to like tens of thousands patients already. So there is no surprise. That is antibody confirmed in the market. So we like to use the proven antibodies and applying them to the ADC technologies. That's why we name it a bio. Actually, it should have been named as Bio Better, but we are receiving the Best Platform Award from the society, so that we like to pursue Bio Best ADC instead of Bio Better ADC. And also, there are many ADCs that are subject to patent expiration, so that we can make bio-best ADCs from the expired ones. And another thing is fast track. So, like clinical design, what types of cancers. So we need to serve as pioneer to become bio best. So even ILD, IND packages are being formalized, so that we can expedite up until the approval stage. And protocols have been accumulated a lot. Here, the red dots represent the patent expirations by 2026 or 2027. 2029. So we need to prepare for BioBest prior to the expiration so that we can work on clinical trials and they could become another blockbuster. As for the antibody, once it is expired, there are a number of biosimilars. But as explained by Bob Lutz this morning, based on the lessons learned, ADC can be advanced continuously based upon the prior experiences. But why not other companies? Why us? That is because we have differentiation through our clinical trials. They need to have technologies to make better ADCs. To elaborate more on this, all of these proven ADC have FDA black box label. If you take a look at the BCMA Black Lab ADC, that has great serious apoptox. We do not need to make change to MMAF. We are utilizing same toxins, same antibodies, but our own linkers. But by changing toxins, we can address resistance. For example, neutropenia or hematological toxicity. So the ours has low toxicity, so that we can utilize the same antibody to be combined with same payload. And through the next generation ADC, we can achieve BioBest exceeding BioBetter. That will become great opportunity for us. And already we are working together with big pharmaceuticals on this topic. And then we didn't disclose internal pipelines much so far. But through the BioBest strategy, we are already working on a number of pipelines. Lastly, that will be the ultimate licensing strategy, like a single asset technology transfer worth like a 2 trillion, and then a package deal including the platform. And the future direction of global licensing would be multi-asset platform. I'm not talking about one asset, multi-assets, and then different stages like the one clinical stage and two preclinical stages and like two research stages. So it will be a strategic alliance or the multi-asset platform package, which is part of our big deal. Of course, deal size would be several times bigger than the existing deal. You might wonder, in my opinion, when and how and what size of deal would it have? When it comes to how, that's already initiated, and from 2025, and package deal size will be larger than existing ones. So this is our goal. Of course, we are not working with anybody out of big pharmaceuticals. Some pharmaceuticals like to have the anti-cancer agents based on ADC, regardless of having their own proprietary ADC or not. So this is our aim in terms of big package with big pharmaceuticals companies. Here is the conclusion of my presentation. If you have a good understanding, you will understand what would be our direction of technology transfer, logically thinking. So clinical stage ADCs they are already showing differentiated advantages like GOT and RRO and through other ADCs. So the clinical validations suggest that the other ADCs would also be successful, and that is happening in reality. And then the BioBest will be one part of the ADCs. A new payload and AICs will also be part of new ADCs. So the bispecific or ADIC or additional values through innovation, and when everything is combined, as a result, the overall licensing value will increase significantly, and BioBest and the big package deal has higher possibility. In other words, instead of single assets, actually, of course, we'll continue to work on single assets and platform deals we have done so far. And on top of this, we are going to take BioBest approach deal and big package deal. They are going to be proceeded together in a combined way so that we will continue to have the phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trials pipelines, and that will be going on as planned. Due to time constraint, you did not show us the later slides, but I think this is important, so you can show us. Actually, I'm done with my presentation. I'm working in Boston, as some of you already know. So I'm the CEO of a subsidiary in Boston. And I have never introduced ACB officially so far, so I'd like to spend 2 more minutes. So when it comes to ACB, representing antibody chem, so which is antibody and chemistry, is part of the company name that is based in Boston. And me and BD personnel are working together. So this is a hub for BD. And LigaChem's IND is being prepared here. So you know that human resources are really matter, and ADC company is not an exception. So we have a total of 120 researchers. Many people are curious how these people can manage that many pipelines. Over the past 10 years, of course, we have secured new human resources and enhanced internal capabilities. But given the ADC experience, if you want to hire people with more than 20 years of ADC, that is very rare. That's not existing in Korea because ADC history is very short. So we are recruiting talent from the US. For example, Bob Lutz is a Chief Development Advisor who is working with us, Rodrigo, and Chief America Office. So they're working on the the clinical trials. And Maurice is responsible for CMC until approval, and then the Rexon is responsible for the pharmacology. Yeah, their reputation, experience matter, but I like to say that many other companies are receiving advice from great experts. But usually, they are flying once a year, or they are having in-depth conference about half a day. But the mode of working here at our company is that they are considered as one department at our company, so that we have several meetings a week and we exchange lots of emails with each other a week. So they are looking like our team members. So these are the leadership, and also here are the working level directors. So most of them have the work experiences with 10 years, and Steve and Joe and Matt, all of them are experienced experts specialized in ADC. Apart from these three people, we hire two more people. One is from the immunology, the other one is from Big Pharma. Their joining us was confirmed. So all of these people were already working with either Big Pharma or ADC company with other ADC with other companies. So what I'm trying to say is that they are elites. But why do you think they joined LigaChem? They have a belief in the future value of LigaChem as experts. So that the BD process starts with R&D, and these are the R&D people, and they are ADC experts from Big Pharma or the immunology company. Thank you very much. So we are running out of time.
Let's take a dive into his presentation right off the bat. I'm sure it must be really tiring. So all those speakers who have talked about this topic so far majored in STEM, but my major is humanities and liberal arts. So this is the snapshot summary of our discussion so far. So our IR team will deliver this summary to you in a more digestive manner, so I'm going to skip this. So give you an overall overview of this vision. Personally, with Mr. Kim Young-ju, we started out together from LG, and we've been together about 39. And at LigaChem, we've been together for 29 years. So those STEM major experts talked about all this. In order to do this, what do you need? Funds and human resources. So what I do is to provide funds and human resources. So over 10 times, I have funded over 900 billion won. At our company, we currently have 560 billion won in cash, and we are moving in a very smart and quick manner. So smart and quick are not two different words. You can actually do work and smart, but at the same time, and quick fashion. So in order to move the preclinical stage to clinical stage, so you need a lot of money. You need about 60 to 70 billion won for the preclinical period and in transition. So we do have a lot of cash. So we can afford to conduct all these clinical trials. For R&D, how much do we invest? Last year alone, we invested 15 billion, 150 billion won, and next year it will increase further. And as we transition from preclinical to clinicals, it's going to require more funds. So we received investments from Orion, but it's not going to dry out because we are going to make more money. So we will make more money than our investments. Of course, we will become a company who turns big profits. So don't worry about the funds or financial situations. Currently, our market capitalization is about 4 trillion won. So our goal is to go over the Orion's market capitalization, which stands at 4.3 trillion won. That way, we can actually return to their investment. We can return their favor by delivering more ROI to them. For the past year and a half, you might think Orion might have been intervening in our business as a big investor, but I can say this with confidence. For the past 1 months and 4 months, we are enjoying great freedom because Orion leadership is really gentle and they ensure freedom for us. As long as we do our job right, they're not going to make an intervention. Because we are doing so well, Orion has deep trust in us. So that is the source of our immense freedom. So we are going to become a global company. Please encourage us and support us. Thank you very much. So you cut your 10-minute speech to 3-minute speech. Thank you very much. We were supposed to end our event at 3:50, which is now, but we didn't take many questions. So we are going to extend our event by 10 minutes to 4 p.m. So our event will last until 4 p.m.
So we've got a number of questions, and here is the first question pre-registered. So I have already explained this as part of my presentation. That's already been addressed. And here is the next question.
I think I can address this question today. Regarding this question, I think I've already gave answers twice. This morning, I even said China-based ADC tsunami. So without technological innovation, you can get some progress for ADC. So if you develop multiple ADCs, some of them can be really good. So as a buyers, you might want really great ADCs with great clinical outcomes. So the absolute number of ADC trials has increased. So as I said earlier in the morning, the number of clinical trials is definitely high in China, but we cannot catch up with China in terms of number, but definitely we will increase the number of ADC clinical trials on our side. And within 3 years, 4 years, we are going to increase the number of candidate drugs to 20. If half of them become part of the clinical trials, if half of them enter clinical trial phase, it will be a big success. So we are making differentiation from China in terms of technological innovation. In China, there's no technological innovation. They just gives a little technological tweak or modification, or they just combine or assort existing technologies together. So regarding platform technology, I would say this. For the past 5 to 6 years, we have transferred technology at least one time. In one case, you can imagine my desk. Right now on my desk, there's a big stacks of contracts which are negotiating fiercely, and also there's a due diligence paper for a certain company, and we have signed a CD with a certain company. if we don't work like this, we can't actually achieve at least one technology transfer. So once we complete one contract, there's another contract about homepage or platform technology transfer. So consecutively, continuously, this cycle of work continues. This is it. Next question.
Yes, about a couple of the licenses. I already answered this in the previous question. One of the features at LCB, we are never convinced after going through one deal. Let's say, for example, it can be reversed on the last day, so we are never confident. But we have continuously the maintained deals. So our goal is same, but we do not guarantee. And platform deals and drug deals, their strategies are the conflicting, but I'm not really sure. I do not think I understand the intent correctly. For example, we are developing a drug for target A, and there is a company who want to have a platform technology transfer. They also want to target A. That is not easy, but we are trying to find a solution. For example, we like to use payload A, and then would it be okay to give you B only? For example, there is another company who signed deal for the platform, but if they are already working on the same target, it won't be easy. But the possibility of conflict is very low, and but even in the case of conflict, we have a solution. And as part of the platform, I already talked about this in my presentation. We have two remaining questions. Please be brief.
Third question. It's very hard to briefly answer this question, so I get lengthy when addressing your question. It's hard to give you specific details, but let me say this. Number one, the clinically validated target and novel targets. So we are going to maintain our pipelines for those two types. In terms of clinical settings, there's a disease, there's a cancer with a large market with a huge medical unmet needs. It seems like we have a lot of anti-cancer therapies, but the largest markets are still lung cancer and breast cancer markets. For colorectal cancer or pancreatic cancer, have you given up on that? It's very difficult, but if you make a success, it will be a jackpot. So we continue to conduct our research and clinical trials on them. So broadly, we are trying to strike a balance. So since we have a lot of pipelines, we don't just focus on one or two, just we focus on broad spectrums of cancer. Last question.
In order to gain competitive advantage, so we are already competitive. We took the first place, so I'm not really sure what is the intent of this question. So you can give additional explanation to the person who asked the question in private. With this, we'd like to conclude today's event. I'd like to ask everyone online and offline for joining us today in order to become the global top ADC at the company. It has been a very meaningful event to share with you our vision and differentiated technologies and sustainable growth. With this, we'd like to conclude today's event. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.